When my son Matthew told me he was getting married, I cried. Not the kind of tears that sting and burn, but the kind that feel warm, like a soft quilt you pull tighter around your shoulders. I had raised him on my own, built his world one small sacrifice at a time, and now he was about to build his own life. I wanted everything to be perfect for him. I spent months helping plan the wedding. I chose the flowers, white peonies and soft blue hydrangeas, the ones he loved in the neighbor's garden growing up. I picked the venue, a country club in Texas with big oak trees and a porch that caught the afternoon sun just right. When Samantha, his fiancée, wanted a bigger cake, a better band, a custom cocktail menu, I said yes to all of it. I didn't want money to be a reason Matthew remembered this day with anything less than joy. The final number on the invoices stung a little, $68,000. But I smiled when I wrote each check, telling myself, it's worth it. He'll know. He'll see. The morning of the wedding, I stood in front of the mirror, smoothing the soft green chiffon of my dress. I spent hours getting my hair curled just right, added a string of pearls Matthew gave me when he graduated college. I told myself today would be special for me too, not because of the cost, not because of the effort, but because I would see my boy, my Matthew, begin a new chapter, and I would be there, right there, smiling in every photo, his proud mother. As I drove to the venue, I sang along to the radio, nervous but excited. I imagined the hugs, the toasts, the quiet moment he might find to say, "Thank you, Mom. None of this would have been possible without you." I didn't expect anything fancy. I didn't need a spotlight, just a seat among family, a smile from my son across the room, maybe a dance, maybe just a hand squeeze before the night ended. It didn't seem like too much to hope for, not for a mother who had given everything she had. When I pulled into the country club parking lot, the sun was high, making the big oak trees cast long, lazy shadows across the lawn. I sat in the car for a moment, smoothing my dress again, checking my lipstick in the mirror. Then I took a breath, grabbed my little beige clutch, and stepped out into the heat. The clubhouse doors swung open, spilling cool air and the sound of laughter into the afternoon. I smiled and walked toward them, heart light, heels clicking across the stone walkway. Inside, a young man in a black polo shirt and headset greeted me. He looked about 19, nervous and fidgety. Mrs. Carter?" he asked. "That's me," I said, smiling. "If you could just follow me, there's been a small change." I blinked but nodded. Maybe a surprise, maybe a special seat. He led me past the grand ballroom, past the white-clothed tables gleaming under crystal chandeliers, past the archway of flowers I had picked out myself. We kept walking, down a side hall, toward a set of swinging doors marked "Kitchen Staff Only." My heels caught slightly on the worn carpet. Surely this wasn't right. The young man pushed through the doors, holding them open for me. Inside, heat clanging metal, the smell of roasted meat and hot oil. There, tucked against the far wall near the industrial ovens, sat a lone folding chair and a small round table. A paper napkin was tossed across the seat. No place card, no flowers, just a chipped plate and a view of the kitchen chaos. The bride thought it would be better for the photos, the boy mumbled, not meeting my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice tight. I sat down, hands folded neatly in my lap, and tried not to look at the stain on the floor under my feet, tried not to think about the chandelier I'd paid for, or the white peonies I'd chosen, or the son I'd raised who hadn't even thought to ask, "Where's my mother sitting?" I smiled. I stayed quiet. Because this was his day. Because I had promised myself I wouldn't ruin it for him, even as something inside me began to quietly, carefully crack. Through the thin crack in the swinging kitchen door, I caught glimpses of the world I wasn't part of. Samantha twirling on the dance floor, her white dress sparkling under the chandeliers I had paid for. Matthew laughing, lifting his glass in a toast. People clinking glasses, leaning in close, sharing jokes I would never hear. I sat very still in my little folding chair, trying not to breathe too deeply, trying not to wrinkle my dress against the grease-stained floor. A server rushed past, balancing a tray piled with crab cakes. As he passed, he muttered under his breath to a coworker, just loud enough for me to catch, "You know she paid for all of this, right?" Poor lady, stuck back here. The words hit harder than I expected, not because they were wrong, because they were true. And now, other people knew it too. The music from the ballroom thudded against the kitchen walls, muffled but relentless. I heard Samantha's mother giving a toast, her syrupy voice floating through the swinging door, thanking everyone for coming, thanking Matthew for being like a second son. No one mentioned me. Not when Samantha's father stood up and joked about their perfect fairy tale wedding. Not when Matthew spoke into the microphone, thanking everyone who had made the day possible. I listened, heart thudding dully against my ribs, waiting for my name, waiting for even the smallest acknowledgement. It never came. I pressed my napkin to my mouth, pretending to dab at a stain, pretending my eyes weren't burning, pretending I wasn't tasting the salt of my own humiliation. Around me, the kitchen bustled on, oblivious. Staff yelled orders, plates crashed into dish tubs, the smell of marinara and burnt bread filled the air. I sat in the middle of it all, invisible. Somewhere deep inside, something cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly. Like a hairline fracture no one sees until the whole thing shatters under pressure. And for the first time that day, I stopped pretending. I wasn't part of this celebration. I wasn't even part of their story. I was just the woman they left behind a kitchen door. I don't know how long I sat there staring at the scratched surface of the little table. Long enough for the wedding to roll into dancing, for the servers to start clearing plates, for the laughter to feel even farther away. At some point, my phone buzzed in my purse, just once, a low hum against my leg. I almost ignored it. I didn't want anything from anyone anymore. But something made me look, maybe stubbornness, maybe survival. It was a notification from my bank, suspicious activity detected. I blinked, confused, and opened the app. I scrolled through the charges, at first without understanding, then with growing clarity, and a tightening in my chest that squeezed harder than any insult could have. There they were, $4,500 to a luxury yoga retreat 2 weeks before the wedding, $8,200 at a downtown steakhouse, the same night as the rehearsal dinner. Both charges made on my card, both without my permission. Samantha's name was right there on one of the receipts. A bridal wellness weekend, it said, in loopy pink font, paid for by me. I stared at the screen, letting the numbers burn into my vision. I thought of the dress Samantha twirled in under the chandeliers. I thought of the toasts, the smiling faces, the way no one once looked toward the kitchen. I thought of my son. Matthew had known. Had to have known. Cards don't just slip into the wrong wallets. The betrayal wasn't just in where they sat me. It wasn't just in forgetting me in the speeches. It was in the way they had used me, my love, my labor, my money, and then tucked me out of sight like a dirty dish they didn't want to photograph. I felt something shift inside me, something clean and cold, not rage, not heartbreak. Clarity. I slipped my phone back into my purse, wiped my eyes one last time, and sat a little straighter in the folding chair. They thought they had sidelined me. They thought they could forget me. They had no idea what I was about to take back. The decision came easier than I expected. Not loud, not angry, just clear. Like a switch flipping quietly in a dark room. I reached into my clutch, found my phone, and scrolled to the contact list I'd spent months building. The florist, the band, the bar service, all the vendors who were scheduled to keep the celebration rolling into tomorrow's brunch. I made the calls one by one, short, polite. Due to a change of plans, the Sunday brunch is canceled. Thank you for your understanding. We won't need the second shift for the open bar. Please adjust accordingly. The band's second set tomorrow night is no longer required. Each call felt like lifting a small stone off my chest. Click, click, click. Freedom in every disconnection. I tucked my phone away and looked around the kitchen. The chaos hadn't stopped. Servers still rushed, trays still clattered, steam still hissed from the ovens. But inside me, the noise had gone quiet. They didn't know it yet. Not Matthew, not Samantha, not anyone out there raising glasses under the chandeliers. But by morning, they would feel it. They would notice the missing brunch. They would hear the silence when the band didn't show. They would watch the bar shutters roll down early, confusion prickling the edges of their perfect day. And I wouldn't have to raise my voice once. I sat a little taller in my chair, smoothing the front of my dress. For the first time all day, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like an afterthought. I felt like someone who had quietly, firmly drawn a line. No screaming, no scenes. Just a mother reclaiming the only thing she had left, her dignity. Out beyond the kitchen doors, the band struck up another song, and laughter swelled through the air. But I didn't flinch this time. I just sat there, calm, steady, knowing they had no idea what was already slipping through their fingers. I left before the final dance. No dramatic exits, no slam doors. I simply slipped out the service hallway, past trays of half-eaten cake and wilted centerpieces, and stepped into the warm night air. The stars above Texas looked softer than I remembered, or maybe it was me who had changed. At the hotel, I poured myself a glass of water, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the edge of the stiff bed, still wearing my dress. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, messages from Matthew, from Samantha, even a call from one of the bridesmaids, but I let it all sit there, untouched. There was nothing left to say, at least not to them. The next morning, while the wedding party scrambled to understand why brunch was canceled, why the band had packed up early, why the bar had closed without warning, I packed my suitcase slowly, methodically. I wasn't rushing anymore. I wasn't chasing anyone anymore. I drove home with the windows cracked, the breeze tugging at my hair, a playlist of old songs humming low through the speakers. Not sad songs, not angry ones, just songs that made the road feel wide open again. When I got home, the roses I'd planted 2 summers ago were in full bloom, wild, messy, unapologetic. I smiled. Later that week, I hosted a small dinner at my house. Nothing fancy, no floral arches or custom cocktails, just real food, real laughter, real people. Friends who knew my favorite pie flavor without asking. Neighbors who had plowed my driveway every winter without ever expecting thanks. Faces that looked at me and actually saw me. We sat around my worn kitchen table, passing bowls of roasted vegetables, clinking glasses filled with lemonade and wine. No speeches, no spotlights, just belonging. At the end of the night, Claire, my friend from the bookstore, raised her glass and said, "To Helen, who reminds us it's never too late to sit at the head of your own table." And for the first time in a long, long while, I raised mine too. Not because I was expected to, not because it was polite, but because I believed it. Maybe you've been there too, sitting quietly where no one thought to look, holding your own worth in silence. If this story touched something inside you, I hope you'll share it in the comments. Tell me about a time you found your way back to yourself. Not with noise, but with quiet strength. I'd love to listen.